Officer fired his taser at a black woman, then discovered she was the governor's only daughter. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. The rain hadn't decided whether it wanted to fall or hover. It hung in the air like mist, swirling under the streetlight, turning the empty highway shoulder into a dim, suspended stage. And on that stage, at exactly 9:42 p.m., a line was crossed. Officer Daniel Reed slammed his palm against the roof of the black SUV, leaning in with the kind of authority that wasn't earned, just worn like a badge too tight for the uniform. "Step out of the vehicle," he barked. His voice sliced through the night like a warning siren. Ariana Cole lifted her eyes slowly. She had been reaching for her gym bag in the passenger seat, sweaty clothes, a water bottle, nothing unusual. But Reed wasn't looking for logic. He was looking for something to confirm the story he had already decided was true. "I said step out," he repeated. "People like you always hide something." There it was. The insult, sharp, rehearsed, wrapped neatly in his idea of who she was supposed to be. A gust of wet wind pushed across the road, carrying his tone with it, letting every parked car around hear the disdain. Ariana exhaled once. Calm, controlled. Her hand moved slowly to unlatch the door. Across the street, headlights flicked past, slowing just enough for strangers to witness the moment. A couple walking a dog paused. A food delivery driver turned down his music. Someone rolled down a window. Phones slid silently into palms. The scene was shifting a pressure drop before a storm. Reed stepped back, hand hovering over the taser holster, thumb tapping the safety cap like a ritual he knew too well. "Let's go," he said. "Out, now." Ariana opened the door and stepped into the mist. Gym leggings, oversized hoodie, no jewelry, no makeup, no entourage, nothing that said privilege, power, or proximity to influence. Just a black woman returning home from a workout. And Reed saw exactly what he wanted to see. He circled her once, slow, as if looking for a place to attach suspicion. "You alone?" he asked. "Yes." "You nervous?" "No." "That's interesting." His flashlight beam dragged across her face, her hands, her pockets, not searching accusing. Then, louder this time, so everyone watching could hear. "You don't look like someone who drives a car like this." Ariana didn't respond. Her silence wasn't submission, it was calculation. She had seen this flavor of arrogance before, in smaller rooms and quieter corners. But tonight it arrived in uniform and rain-soaked authority. Reed leaned in until the beam of his light hit her eyes directly. "Tell me," he said, "where'd you get this vehicle?" Before the story dives deeper, before the tension sharpens into something irreversible, she turns her head slightly just enough for her voice to travel. And now comes the moment you requested, the interaction line delivered with quiet gravity. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Ariana. Reed didn't care who she was, didn't care what she had done, didn't care that her paperwork was flawless, her plates clean, her demeanor calm. He cared about the picture he had painted in his mind. "I'm going to ask again," he said, breath hot with certainty. "Where did you get this car?" And as the rain thickened, dripping off the brim of his hat like accusation, Ariana realized something. This wasn't a traffic stop. This was a verdict delivered before the trial. And the night was just beginning. The night didn't get louder. It got tighter, like someone pulling invisible strings around the scene and drawing every breath inward. Ariana stood beneath the streetlight, rain settling onto her hoodie in silver dots, steady and silent. There was nothing threatening about her posture, no sudden moves, no raised voice, no defiance. But to Officer Reed, calm was a challenge, and composure was guilt. Ariana folded her hands in front of her, fingers still trembling from the cold, not from fear. She'd been in situations like this before, maybe not with a taser waiting, maybe not on a rainy highway shoulder at nearly 10 at night, but the energy was familiar, suspicion searching for a home. "My ID is in my back pocket," she said quietly. "I'm reaching for it with my right hand." Her tone was measured, almost professional. She knew exactly how to speak to survive moments like these. Reed didn't answer at first. He paced one short step to the side, hand still hovering near the taser holster, eyes narrowed like he was squinting at a crime scene no one else could see. Slowly, he finally muttered. Ariana nodded once, moved exactly as instructed, and handed him her license laminated, clean, issued just months ago. Reed snatched it from her fingers like it weighed more than paper. "Where are you headed?" he said. "Home. After the gym." Quote. Reed raised an eyebrow, smirking slightly as he scanned the ID without actually reading it. "Gym, huh? And you're driving this?" There it was again, the disbelief. The assumption that the car didn't fit the woman, that her clothes didn't match her worth, that her skin didn't match her story. Rain dripped off the edge of her sleeve as she steadied her breathing. She didn't explain herself. She didn't justify. She didn't rush to defend a life he couldn't imagine. Silence was her shield. Traffic hummed in the distance, a few cars slowing to rubberneck. Someone rolled down a passenger window to watch. The dog-walking couple had stopped completely now, whispering to each other, glancing at Ariana, then at Reed. A delivery driver parked nearby leaned over the steering wheel, phone angled discreetly toward the scene. He wasn't filming yet, but he was ready. Reed tapped the license with his thumb. "You got any warrants I should know about?" "No." "You sure?" "Yes." Quote. He smirked again. "You answer too fast. People answer fast when they lie." Ariana blinked once. Rain hit the pavement in a soft, steady hiss behind her. "I answered because I know the truth." That sentence, simple, even gentle, made Reed's jaw tighten. Officers like him didn't fear shouting. They feared someone who didn't give them the reaction they wanted. He stepped closer, invading the thin circle of space she'd been protecting around herself. "You nervous?" he asked. "No." "Quite." "That's interesting," Reed said again, repeating his earlier line as if trying to bait her into something bigger. "Most people get nervous when I ask questions." Ariana's eyes lifted to his just long enough to answer. "I'm not most people." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a challenge. But somehow it landed like both. For a moment, Reed said nothing. The rain thickened, tapping against the car, the pavement, the cold metal of his badge. A passing truck sent a gust of wind across the shoulder, making Ariana's hoodie cling to her arms. Reed finally turned and raised his voice toward the shadows of the street. "Morales, get over here!" Another officer, broader and older, approached from the patrol car behind them. Officer Morales moved with a heavy, practiced authority, each step sending ripples through the puddles. His face was unreadable, not hostile, just worn out, like a man who had seen too much and questioned too little. "What we got?" Morales asked. "Possible stolen vehicle," Reed said too confidently. Morales glanced at Ariana. "She resisting?" "She's being cute," Reed said. "Won't explain where she got the car." Ariana didn't flinch. "My registration is in the glove compartment. You can take it." Reed didn't move. "She says that because she knows I'm not going to let her reach in there." Quote. Morales sighed. "I'll get it." He approached the passenger door with slower, calmer movements than Reed. But Reed stopped him abruptly. "No, she'll get it. I want to see how she moves." A murmur rippled through the onlookers, a single, uncomfortable sound under the rain. Ariana kept her gaze steady. "I'll step to the side. You can open the door yourself." Reed stepped right in front of her, chest squared, blocking her view of the car. "Trying to negotiate now?" he asked. "No," she said softly. "I'm trying to stay safe." That sentence hung in the air, thick, undeniable, echoing years of headlines, thousands of stories, millions of fears. Morales shifted uncomfortably. Reed ignored it. He leaned in until Ariana could smell the metallic tang of rainwater dripping from his vest. "You keep talking like that," Reed said, "and we're going to have a problem." Ariana lowered her eyes just a touch, not in fear, but in strategy. Her voice didn't rise. Her breathing didn't change. Her posture didn't bend. She simply stood there, under the dim yellow glow of the streetlight, looking less like a suspect and more like someone who had decided long ago never to play by the script that others tried to write for her. And the quietness, her quietness, began to shift the energy. People around them straightened. Someone whispered, "She didn't do anything." A phone camera clicked on. Another one followed. Then another. Calm wasn't weakness. Calm was witness. Reed saw it and hated it. "Turn around," he said, stepping back, hand hovering dangerously close to the taser now. "I'm not asking again." The mist thickened. The witnesses leaned forward. The line between order and escalation thinned to a thread. Ariana lifted her chin, rain streaking down her face like cold silver lines. "I'm cooperating," she said softly. "All I've done is stand here." But Reed had already made up his mind. and the night was about to choose a side. The rain finally committed. It fell harder now, sliding off the patrol lights in red and blue streaks that flickered across Ariana's face. The world around her dimmed, except for the sheen of water on the asphalt and the tight electric coil of tension tightening with every second. Officer Reed straightened his posture like a man preparing for a moment he'd been waiting for all night. "Turn around," he repeated. Ariana did slowly, deliberately, giving him no excuse, no sudden motion, nothing that could be twisted into resisting. Her hoodie clung to her back, soaked through, the fabric catching the flashing lights like a moving shadow. Morales shifted to the side, watching her with uneasy eyes. He wasn't the problem, but he wasn't stopping it either. And sometimes, silence could be just as dangerous. Reed reached for her wrists. But before he touched her, a voice cut through the rain. "Wait, what are you doing? She hasn't done anything." It was the food delivery driver. Young, Latino, hoodie pulled tight over his head, stepping closer with his phone raised. The camera lens shimmered under the rain, red recording light blinking like a warning. Reed shot him a look sharp enough to slice stone. "Back up," he snapped. "She's cooperating, man," the driver said. "You're escalating this." Reed stepped forward not toward Ariana, but toward the driver. "I said back up." "Wait." Ariana turned her head slightly, eyes following the tension shifting away from her, aware that power mishandled often needed a new target. But then another voice rose. "Don't talk to him like that." The dog-walking couple stood closer now. The woman slid her umbrella forward, shielding part of Ariana's shoulder without touching her, a silent gesture, but loud in its intent. Reed's nostrils flared. "Everybody here needs to mind their business." Quote. Someone from a nearby car window shouted, "Public street, this is our business!" Multiple phones angled toward him now. Metallic rain, blinking lights. Breaths held hostage by the moment. Morales cleared his throat. "Reed," he muttered quietly, "we should just run the plate again." "No," Reed snapped. "She's hiding something." Ariana's voice returned soft but steady. "You have my ID. You haven't checked anything." Reed spun toward her like he was insulted by the facts. "You think this is a conversation?" he said. "You think you get to tell me how to do my job?" Ariana didn't lift her chin. She didn't shrink either. She simply held her ground, still soaked, still calm, still unbroken by the weight swinging toward her. "My registration is valid," she said. "You can verify it." Reed stepped so close, their reflections blurred in each other's rainwater. "You want to know what I see?" he asked. "I see someone in the wrong car, in the wrong place, acting too confident for someone who's supposed to be innocent." The dog-walking woman whispered to her partner. "He's profiling her." Reed heard it and snapped his head in their direction. "You don't know what you're talking about." But the man responded, "We know what we're seeing." A sharp breath escaped Reed, loud enough to cut the night. Morales interjected again, hesitant. "Reed, maybe we should—" "No," Reed barked. "Backup requested. Possible non-compliant suspect. Prepare for detainment." That was it. The spark. The shift. The moment when suspicion became a weapon, Ariana felt the air tighten around her ribs. Not fear, just recognition. A cold déjà vu she had known too many times in too many forms. She'd been 15 when a mall security guard followed her for 2 stores straight, waiting for a mistake. She'd been 17 when a teacher assumed the honor roll essay wasn't hers. She'd been 22 when a colleague asked who she was shadowing at a formal government event. Every time disbelief wore a different face, but the energy was always the same. And now, on a wet stretch of highway, it was back again. Reed turned to Morales, put her hands behind her back. Morales hesitated not because he disagreed, but because something about this scene felt off, even to him. "Sir," Morales said quietly, "she hasn't resisted." Quote. Reed snapped. "If I say she resisted, she resisted." That line sent a wave through the onlookers. Murmurs rose. Phones lifted higher. Rain drummed against the pavement like dozens of tiny fists demanding attention. Ariana breathed once the kind of breath taken by someone calculating her next move with precision. "I'm cooperating," she said again, her voice steady, echoing against the wet air. "There's no reason for force." Reed's jaw clenched. The delivery driver muttered, "He wants a reason." Reed heard it. He turned sharply toward the crowd, rainbeam cracking off his vest like lightning. "Last warning, everyone back away." But no one moved. Not one person. Evan Morales stood still. The rain didn't hide the truth anymore. It highlighted it. Reed exhaled sharply, a breath laced with frustration, ego, and something darker. He reached for the taser strap, not firing yet. but preparing. Preparing the way people do when they're convinced they're right, even when the entire world is watching them be wrong. Ariana looked at him, not in fear, in clarity. "I've complied with everything you asked," she said. "If you go further, that's your choice, not my action." Lightning flashed somewhere behind the clouds, illuminating the wet asphalt like a stage set for a breaking point. Reed's fingers tightened on the taser. Morales took a step back. The crowd leaned forward in horrified anticipation. The night had reached its edge, and everyone knew the fall was coming. Ariana held her breath. Everyone else held theirs. And Reed, with rain dripping from his chin and authority dripping from his tone, made the decision that would change the entire night. He pulled the taser free. The taser came up like a blade of lightning. Not fired yet, but pointed, poised, trembling with the kind of tension that rewrites entire nights. Rain collected on the metal, drip by drip, as if the storm itself was deciding whether to intervene. Ariana didn't move, didn't blink, didn't tremble. She stood still, centered, grounded the calm point in a circle of chaos. Reed's voice dropped an octave, rough and low. "Hands behind your back now." A hush fell across the scene. The delivery driver stopped recording for half a second, stunned into stillness. Even the dog paused mid-step, leash taut, sensing the shift in the air. Ariana inhaled quietly. "I haven't resisted." Reed stepped closer, taser raised higher, and that was when the voice came unexpected, sharp, brave. "Stop." She didn't resist. "I saw everything." Heads turned at once. A young woman hurried toward them from the sidewalk, scrubs peeking out beneath her jacket, hospital name badge swinging wildly in the wind. Her hair was pulled back in a rushed bun, damp from the rain, cheeks flushed from running. Mia Thompson, night shift trauma nurse, witness by circumstance, conscience by choice. Reed didn't even try to hide his annoyance. "Ma'am, stay back." But Mia stood her ground, panting lightly. "She cooperated with every command you gave. She stepped out slowly. She told you her movements. You never ran her plate and you never checked her ID properly." The crowd rippled. People shifted closer, like her words had drawn an invisible line on the pavement. Reed's grip tightened around the taser. "I said step back. This is a police matter." Mia's voice sharpened. "This is a human matter." Reed's jaw twitched. Morales looked between them, uneasy, his fingers fidgeting near his radio. Mia took another step. Her shoes splashed in a thin layer of water, rain dripping down her face, but her eyes didn't waver. "I walked by earlier," she said. "I saw your scanner. Her plates came back clean. You ignored it." Whispers shot through the bystanders. "Did he really?" "She's telling the truth." Quote, "That's messed up." Reed snapped, "You don't know what you're talking about." But Mia wasn't backing down. She squared her shoulders like someone who had spent years fighting for patients who couldn't speak for themselves. "I know exactly what I saw, and I know what you're doing right now is wrong." Reed lowered the taser slightly, not out of mercy, but out of frustration. "You're interfering with an active investigation." "No," Mia said. "I'm stopping you from rewriting what just happened." A flash of lightning lit up the sky, illuminating the conviction on her face. Ariana watched her, quiet, absorbing the moment, the rare, powerful moment when a stranger steps forward and says, "Enough." The delivery driver regained his voice. "She's right, I saw it too." Another person chimed in, "She didn't do anything." Morales looked cornered by reality itself. He rubbed a hand over his face, rain streaking across his features. "Reed," he said softly, "maybe we should—" Reed snapped hard. "No." Mia flinched at the volume, but she didn't back up. Instead, she reached into her pocket and held up her phone. "Not recording yet, but ready." "Do I need to?" she asked. The question wasn't a threat. It was truth delivered like a scalpel. Clean, precise, unavoidable. Reed stared at her, chest rising and falling. The taser hung mid-air between impulse and consequence. Then Mia added, her voice trembling but firm, "You pointed a weapon at an unarmed woman standing still. If you fire that thing, it will be on you, not her." The silence that followed felt heavy enough to bend the road. Reed's nostrils flared. He didn't lower the taser. He didn't lift it further. He just held it suspended between ego and accountability. Morales whispered again, "Reed, we're being watched." Phones everywhere were recording now. The couple with the dog, the delivery driver, two teens sitting on the trunk of a car, the woman in the long coat who had pulled over just to film. A mosaic of lenses, a chorus of witnesses. Ariana's eyes softened toward Mia. Not gratitude, something deeper. Recognition. Someone had finally said the words she'd swallowed too many times in her life. Reed took one step toward Mia. "You're obstructing." "No," she said, steadying her breath. "I'm observing." Quote, "And you think that makes you important?" Reed spat. Mia held his gaze. "I think it makes me necessary." For a moment, it looked like he might swing the taser toward her, shout, push, escalate, the kind of escalation the headlines never get right. But before Reed made his choice, something shifted in the air. A beat, a pause, a breath between storms. Mia stepped forward just enough that her shadow overlapped with Ariana's. "You don't get to twist this," she said quietly. "You don't get to erase what we saw." The taser trembled in Reed's grip. This was the first crack, the first break in the narrative he was trying to control. Crowds don't lie, cameras don't lie, and witnesses who speak with shaking voices don't lie. Ariana exhaled steady, warm against the cold night. Mia wasn't just a witness. She was the turning point the night had been waiting for, and Reed's temper was about to collide with the truth. The night snapped, not loudly, not with a scream, but with a single, razor-thin moment when logic cracked beneath the weight of ego and everything after that became inevitable. Reed's jaw clenched so tight, the muscles in his temple twitched. Mia's words still burned in the air. "You don't get to erase what we saw." The phones, the witnesses, the rain, the truth. All of it pressed against him like a corner closing in. And Reed, a man who feared humiliation more than wrongdoing, reached for the only thing that made him feel powerful. He lifted the taser. Not slowly, not cautiously, with the speed of a man trying to reclaim control before it slipped through his fingers forever. Reed Morales started. Too late. The taser cracked with a pop that cut through the rain like a violent spark. A burst of yellow light leapt forward, slicing the wet air in a streak of electric hunger. Ariana saw it a split second before it struck. The world didn't go silent, it stretched. Sound slowed. Raindrops seemed to float suspended above headlights. The gasp of the crowd elongated into a single, trembling breath. Not again, Ariana thought. The prongs hit her chest with a sharp, metallic snap. Her body jerked backward, contorting under the surge of electricity. The hoodie darkened with water, then with impact. Her knees buckled. The ground rushed up to meet her. And in that split second, the one between falling and hitting the pavement memory opened like a wound. Flashback, age 17. Charlotte, North Carolina. She was standing in a mall atrium, holding a birthday bag for her cousin. A security guard approached, tall, stern, eyes already suspicious. "Where'd you get that?" he asked. "My aunt bought it," she answered. He didn't hear her, or didn't want to. "You need to come with me," he insisted. She remembered gripping the bag tighter, remembered other shoppers staring, remembered the feeling in her throat, a burn she couldn't swallow. Her mother arrived minutes later, furious and breathless, demanding answers. The guard never apologized. He simply said, "Looked suspicious." That was the first time Ariana understood that innocence wasn't always protection, and silence wasn't always safety. Back to present highway shoulder, rain pouring. Her body hit the ground with a wet thud. A shock wave of cold spread across her back, the rain mixing with the electricity still pulsing through her limbs. Phones trembled in people's hands. Gasps broke into shouts. "Yo, what the hell?" She wasn't resisting. "You can't do that." "Somebody get help." Mia sprinted forward instantly, boots splashing through puddles, kneeling beside Ariana before Reed could stop her. "Don't touch her," Reed barked. "I'm a nurse," Mia snapped back. "And you just tased an unarmed woman standing still." Ariana's fingers twitched, searching for grounding. Mia reached for her wrist, checking her pulse as rain ran down both their arms. "It's okay," Mia whispered, voice shaking. "I'm here, don't move." Ariana's breaths were ragged, each inhale sharp like broken glass. But her eyes behind the pain stayed clear. Focused, awake, Reed took a step closer, fury twisting across his face. She refused commands, he declared to the crowd. She was resisting. "No," Mia cut in, voice slicing through his lie like a scalpel. "Every phone here recorded exactly what happened." Morales looked at Ariana, then at the crowd, then back at Reed. Doubt seeped into his eyes, heavy, human, undeniable. "Reed," he whispered, "you need to stop." But Reed was committed now, too deep in his own narrative to climb out. "I acted according to protocol," he insisted loudly, voice carrying like a man performing for an audience he couldn't control. Someone from the crowd yelled, "Protocol doesn't include assault." Another voice, "She didn't do anything." Reed snapped, "Everybody back up!" But this time, nobody moved. Not an inch. A nurse kneeling beside a fallen woman. A delivery driver holding a recording phone with a shaking fist. Two teens whispering, "This is going viral." Quote. A couple clutching a leash, heads shaking in disbelief. A ring of humanity surrounding the truth. A ring that Reed couldn't intimidate anymore. Ariana struggled to lift her head. Pain crackled through her muscles like static. Her vision blurred, then sharpened again. She whispered, barely audible. "My do." Mia leaned closer. "What? What do you need?" Ariana's hand twitched toward Morales. "Check the back of my ID." Morales blinked, confused. Then he reached for the license still clutched in Reed's hand. Reed yanked it back. "Don't you dare!" But Morales' voice finally rose steady, firm. "Give it to me." For the first time all night, Reed hesitated. Just for a second, just enough. Morales took the ID. He flipped it over. His eyes widened. Brows furrowed. Breath stopped. Rain ran down his face. But it wasn't the storm that made him go pale. Because on the back of the ID, printed in bold emergency contact lettering, was a single line. "Emergency contact. Office of the Governor." Morales looked up, stunned, then whispered, "Reed." "Oh God, she's the governor's daughter." Reed froze, and the night electric and wet and trembling with tension shifted on its axis. The breaking point had arrived, and the fallout was just beginning. For a moment, the rain felt different, no longer just falling, but listening. The entire highway shoulder held its breath as Morales stared at the back of Ariana's ID like it had detonated in his hands. "Reed," he whispered again, voice hollowing out. "She's the governor's only daughter." Reed didn't react at first. He couldn't. The words hit him like a body blow, knocking the certainty out of his lungs. His grip on the taser loosened, but he didn't lower it. Not yet. He looked down at Ariana, still on the pavement, still struggling to control the tremors the electricity had left behind, and something flickered behind his eyes. Not remorse. Instinct. A survivor's fear. Because suddenly, this wasn't a routine stop gone bad. It wasn't even a mistake. It was career-ending, life-altering, headline-making, and he felt it. All at once, Morales stepped forward, voice louder now, heavy with urgency. "We need medical, and we need to report this up the chain right now." But Reed snapped back to life, clinging to the only thing he understood, control. "Nobody calls anyone," he hissed. "Not yet." Mia stood, blocking Reed's view of Ariana. "You're not touching her again." "Mia," Ariana whispered weakly, "I'm okay." "No," Mia said, steady as stone, "you're not. And even if you were, he doesn't get to walk away from this." "Kai!" The crowd murmured in agreement, their presence forming a protective ring around Ariana. No weapons, no badges, just truth and a dozen recording phones. Reed stepped closer, but Morales grabbed his arm. "Danny, stop." Reed jerked away. "She never said who she was?" "You never asked." Morales shot back. A ripple ran through the onlookers, a low, collective exhale of exactly. Reed's voice cracked with anger. "She can't just pull rank like that." "Coy." And then, despite the pain, Ariana lifted her head. Her voice was hoarse, shaky from the shock, but every syllable landed with a controlled, measured weight. "I didn't pull rank," she said. "You pulled a weapon." The words fell like a stone into water, spreading, echoing, undeniable. Reed froze. Ariana forced herself up onto one elbow, teeth clenched against the pain. Rain rolled down her cheek, mixing with the tremor in her breath. Mia supported her gently. Ariana looked at Morales. "There's a number on the back of that ID. Call it. Now." Morales didn't hesitate. He stepped away, already reaching for his radio and personal phone at the same time. His voice shifted into professional mode, steady, clipped, precise. "This is Officer Morales. I need immediate contact with the governor's office. Priority code." Reed lunged, grabbing Morales' wrist. "Don't call them. We can fix this." Morales pulled back, eyes finally hardening. "We're past fixing." Quote. The delivery driver muttered under his breath. It's over for him. Reed spun toward Ariana again, rain dripping off his chin. "You could have just told me who you were." Ariana stared at him, not angry, not afraid. Tired. "Resolved." "Done." "I didn't need to," she said softly. "I cooperated. That should have been enough." Those words stung more than any accusation, because they were true. And truth, backed by an entire crowd, is a weapon no taser can silence. Morales stepped back toward them, the phone pressed to his ear. "They're connecting us to the governor now." Reed's breath hitched. His eyes darted around, calculating every possible escape route, physical, emotional, legal. None existed. Not anymore. Ariana pushed herself upright, Mia supporting her under the arm. The tremors in her limbs had lessened, but the calm in her face had returned, sharp, regal, unshakable. "I need you to document this," Ariana murmured to Mia. "Everything. Time. Conditions. Exact actions." "I already have it," Mia said. "I've been taking notes since the moment he aimed at you." Ariana nodded once, slow, the quiet acknowledgement of an alliance formed under rain and pressure. Morales lowered his phone slightly. "They're patching in the governor." The crowd gasped. A couple of people stepped back. Even the rain seemed to pause, as if the clouds themselves were bracing for what came next. Reed swallowed hard. This is being blown out of proportion." Ariana lifted her hand just a few inches, not to silence him, to end the moment. "Don't speak," she said. "Not to me." Her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It wasn't shaking. It was final. From Morales's phone, a deep, authoritative voice filled the wet air. "This is Governor Cole. Who am I speaking to? And why is my daughter on the ground?" The crowd erupted into whispers. Reed staggered back a step. Ariana's eyes sharpened, her spine straightening as if her strength had returned in full. This was the turn, the pivot the entire night had been spiraling toward. Ariana looked up at Reed. "You wanted control," she said quietly. "You're about to learn what real power looks like." And for the first time all night, Reed felt something he hadn't felt even when pulling the taser: fear. The governor's voice poured through Morales's phone like thunder, wrapped in authority, deep, steady, unmistakable. "Officer, I need a status report. Why is my daughter on the ground?" Morales swallowed hard, rain streaking down his cheek like guilt made visible. "Sir, there was an incident. I'm gathering details now." Reed lunged forward, desperate. "Governor Cole, this is Officer Daniel Reed. Your daughter was non-compliant during a high-risk stop." Before he could finish, Morales slapped his hand over the receiver, eyes wide. "Don't lie," he hissed under his breath. "Not to him." Reed's face twisted, panic cracking through his confidence. He turned toward Ariana, still supported by Mia, still shaking slightly from the taser, and for the first time, he didn't look angry. He looked exposed. Ariana inhaled slowly, gathering herself, letting her spine straighten 1 inch at a time. Raindrops rolled from her lashes as she lifted her head, the flashing patrol lights painting her in red, then blue, then white, like a stage waiting for its cue. Morales stepped aside and lowered the phone toward her. "Ma'am, he wants to speak with you." Ariana shook her head. "No, not yet." Her voice was soft, controlled, but the entire crowd leaned in instinctively. She took one step toward Reed. Just one, and the tension snapped from danger to destiny. Rain pooled around her shoes. Her hoodie clung to her frame, but she looked taller than she had all night, like the storm itself was holding her upright. Reed's breath shuddered. What are you doing?" Ariana looked him in the eye for the first time since he aimed the taser at her, and the weight of the moment settled between them. "You called me a suspect," she said quietly. "You called me a problem." Her voice sharpened, slicing through the night. "You called me non-compliant." Reed blinked, throat tight, because the crowd was silent now, waiting, watching. "And all I did," Ariana continued, "was stand still." Her words echoed against the wet pavement, against the windows of passing cars, against the phones recording her every syllable. Reed stepped back involuntarily, like her calm was a force pushing him into the truth. Ariana didn't shout, didn't tremble. She just said the one sentence that froze the entire highway shoulder. "You called me a threat?" "In the state my father governs." A collective gasp tore through the onlookers. The dog-walking woman clutched her partner's arm. The delivery driver whispered, "No way." Two teens swore under their breath. Morales closed his eyes, bracing for the fallout. But Ariana wasn't finished. She took another step forward. Rain trickled down her cheek, but her voice was clear crystalline, steady, unshakable. "You pointed a weapon at me," she said, in public, while being filmed. "Without cause." Each phrase hit like a strike of lightning. Reed staggered, fingers twitching near the taser still in his hand. Ariana's chin lifted. "You assaulted the governor's only daughter over a story you invented." The line hit so hard the air itself seemed to recoil. Gasps, whispers, phones buzzing, a distant car slowing down just to catch the scene. And then, the viral moment, the one that would be clipped, shared, replayed 1,000,000 times. Ariana stepped fully into the flashing lights, looked Reed dead in the eyes, and said, You didn't just abuse your power. You abused it on the wrong woman. The crowd erupted. Yes. Tell him! Holy, she said it. Oh, he's done. Reed shook his head, stumbling back. It wasn't like that I didn't know you never... Ariana cut him off with a single glance. Because it didn't matter. He had crossed the line before he ever knew she was somebody's daughter. And that was the point. She turned toward Morales. Put him on internal hold, she said softly. Detain him. Reed's eyes went wide. You can't do that. Morales looked at Ariana, then at the crowd, then at Reed. His decision landed in the rain. I can, and I am. He reached for Reed's wrist. Reed jerked away, voice breaking. She's lying! She's lying about all of this! Ariana stepped closer, her shadow crossing over his shaking hands. I didn't need to lie, she said. You lied the moment you saw me. The taser slipped from Reed's fingers, clattering onto the pavement. It was over. Not legally, not administratively, not even officially, but spiritually, socially, unmistakably. Over. Ariana finally lifted Morales' phone to her ear. Dad, she said, voice steady. I'll explain everything. But the first thing you need to know is this. She looked directly at Reed as she spoke. I'm safe now. He's the one who needs help. The moment Ariana lifted the phone to her ear, the entire shoulder of the highway felt like it tilted as if the night itself shifted its weight to listen. Dad, she repeated softly, steady, unwavering. I'm safe now, but you need to know what happened. Quote. Reed swallowed hard, the sound sharp even through the rain. His hands twitched uselessly at his sides, hands that earlier had been confident enough to raise a weapon. Now they just hovered there, trembling, empty. Morales tightened his grip on Reed's forearm. Don't move, he said. It wasn't a threat. It was an instruction. A closing door. Reed jerked out of instinct, pride still fighting even as reality collapsed around him. Morales, you can't do this. I'm your partner. Not tonight, Morales said, voice firm. Not after what I saw. The crowd murmured again, the kind of murmur that grows into a storm once people know the tide has turned. Phones angled closer. Umbrellas shifted to get a clearer view. Someone whispered, finally. Ariana kept her eyes on Reed while speaking into the phone. Yes, she said. Medical is coming. No, he hasn't apologized. No, he's not restrained yet. Reed flinched. Every sentence felt like a nail sealing a consequence he wasn't prepared to face. Mia stood beside Ariana, hands no longer shaking now, steady with purpose. You're doing okay? She whispered to her. Just breathe. Ariana breathed. Not for Reed. For herself. Then she lifted her chin slightly. Dad, I want internal affairs here. Tonight, I want his body cam pulled. I want the footage collected before he can alter anything. Reed exploded. That's not fair. She's twisting. Don't, Ariana said sharply. The single word froze him mid-sentence. Her tone wasn't loud, but it was final, the kind of finality that comes from someone who has nothing left to fear. Mia stepped forward. You tased her while she was standing still, she said plainly. Every phone here recorded it. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Reed's voice broke. She didn't tell me who she was? Ariana didn't blink. And that gave you permission? Reed looked around for support from Morales, from the crowd, from anyone. But nobody stepped forward. The delivery driver shook his head. Nah, man, we all saw it. The dog-walking couple nodded. She did everything you asked. A teenager lifted his phone. Dude, you're cooked. Just stop. Reed's chest rose and fell in frantic, uneven breaths. For the first time that night, he looked small, not physically, but morally. Like a man shrinking inside his own uniform, Morales spoke again, voice stiff with duty. Officer Reed, under departmental protocol, I'm placing you on internal hold pending investigation. Reed's eyes went wide, panic turning raw. No, please, not like this. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain, Morales said. He produced a zip tie restraint from his belt standard issue, but somehow heavier now, in the rain-soaked tension. A gasp rippled across the bystanders as Morales secured one of Reed's wrists behind his back. The symbolic reversal was unmistakable. Reed twisted. Don't do this, Morales. I trained you. I vouched for you. Morales didn't stop. Then you should have taught me better. Click. The restraint tightened. The taser that had caused everything lay on the ground between them, its yellow body flickering under the lights like a fallen crown. Ariana finally lowered the phone. My father's on his way, she said quietly. Reed stopped struggling. What? He's coming personally. Reed's breath stuttered. That's not necessary. It is, Ariana said, because accountability doesn't happen quietly. Not anymore. Mia stepped beside her, shoulders squared. That's right. The crowd murmured in agreement, their presence turning the shoulder of the highway into a courtroom without walls. A patrol car pulled up with medical personnel. 2 paramedics rushed to Ariana, helping her sit upright fully, checking her vitals, shining a small light into her eyes. She didn't resist. She didn't flinch. She just watched Reed. The man who once towered over her now couldn't meet her gaze. His voice came out small, cracked, drenched in fear. I didn't know. I swear. If I had known. Ariana cut him off, softly but devastatingly. That's the problem. He froze. You only see value, she continued, when you're told who someone belongs to. The crowd went silent, stunned by the precision of that truth. Ariana's final words landed like the final strike in a long-delayed verdict. You didn't assault the governor's daughter. A beat. You assaulted a woman who refused to shrink for you. Reed lowered his head, not because he wanted to, but because the moment demanded it. Morales finished securing him, then stepped away, exhaling hard like he'd been carrying the weight of Reed's choices longer than he realized. The taser lay between them. The rain washed it clean, but nothing could wash away what had just happened. This was the collapse, his undoing witnessed by strangers, recorded by phones, sealed by truth, and it was far from over. The rain finally softened, fading from a downpour into a thin, steady whisper as if even the sky knew the night had said enough. Paramedics finished checking Ariana's vitals. One wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, another shined a light across her pupils, and Mia stayed close, guarding her space the way a shield guards its center. Reed stood several feet away, restrained, soaked, shaking not from cold, but from the slow, crushing realization of what he'd done. The crowd's phones were still raised, documenting every breath he took, every twitch, every excuse he didn't dare voice anymore. Morales paced once, then stopped near Ariana, not quite sure where to look. Ma'am, units from the governor's security detail are on their way. ETA 3 minutes. Ariana nodded softly, absorbing the information without reacting. Everything inside her had settled into a calm more powerful than any outrage. She rose slowly with Mia's support. Her legs were unsteady, but her posture was straight, impossibly straight, as if the ground itself steadied under her feet. The crowd instinctively parted, forming a quiet aisle of witnesses. Ariana stepped forward, just once, then again. The blanket draped around her shoulders swayed in the breeze. Her breath fogged the air. Her voice, when it finally came, was clear as glass. Everyone here, she said softly. Thank you. The crowd straightened. Phones dipped slightly. Rain tapped quietly against the pavement, waiting. You didn't know who I was, she continued. None of you did. Her eyes traveled slowly across the witnesses. The delivery driver clutching his phone with trembling hands, the couple holding their dog close, the teens who'd filmed everything, the woman in the long coat whispering prayers under her breath. But you didn't need my name to know I deserved dignity. Quote. A ripple of warmth moved through the group, not applause, not cheers, just breath. Human breath. Ariana turned toward Reed. He refused to meet her eyes. Jaw clenched, rain dripping off his chin like guilt trying to escape. You built a whole story about me before I ever said a word, Ariana said. You decided my intentions. You decided my danger. You decided my worth. The words weren't angry, they were heavy. Truth often is. He didn't yell. He didn't run. He didn't fight. I stood still. And still, you hurt me. Reed flinched at the word hurt, because nothing else had pierced him all night. Ariana stepped closer. Not enough to intimidate, just enough to be undeniable. My father being governor doesn't change what you did, she said. It just makes visible what would have been ignored. Silence. Thunderless. Complete. Morales lowered his eyes. Several witnesses swallowed hard. Even the paramedics paused mid-motion. Ariana drew a deeper breath, the kind people take when they're about to deliver something that matters, something that will outlive the night. You didn't fail because you didn't know who I was, she said. You failed because you didn't care who I could be. Reed's shoulders collapsed inward, not dramatically, not theatrically, just broken. Ariana turned from him not out of dismissal, but out of closure and looked back to the crowd. I want everyone to remember something, she said. You don't need power to demand justice. You just need people who refuse to look away. Several heads nodded. A few whispered yes. Someone wiped their eyes. Red and blue emergency strobes approached from the distance, not the frantic kind, but the protective kind. The governor's detail. Ariana straightened her shoulders. Tonight could have ended differently. she continued, easily, quickly, silently. Quote, her voice didn't shake. The night had already done enough shaking. But you stood here, you watched, you recorded, you spoke, and because of that, the truth didn't disappear into the dark. The rain slowed to a mist. Ariana's last words drifted across the pavement with the kind of gravity that ends stories and begins conversations. He didn't raise my voice tonight. I raised the standard. The crowd let the line sink in, deep, collective, breathless. Then the security SUVs rolled in, doors opening like the final punctuation of a story that would be replayed across every screen before sunrise. Ariana stepped into the lights, steadier now, defined not by what happened to her but by how she stood through it. Justice hadn't shouted. Justice hadn't struck back. Justice had simply stood tall, and the night at last exhaled. Never mistake calm for weakness. That's where power lives.